Hey you guys, so today I wanted to teach you the basics of eyeshadow application. This is going to be super redundant for a lot of you, and if you guys have been watching my videos for a while, you're going to hear a lot of tips I've already mentioned in the past, but I do have a lot of questions from people all the time about how to apply eyeshadow and not have it be muddy, all that different kind of stuff. So first I'm going to show you guys how to do a really basic eyeshadow application that I'm wearing right meow, and then afterwards I'm going to go ahead and answer some questions that you guys had asked for Twitter. The one big thing that I see a lot of you guys saying is that you don't have a ton of brushes, so it's hard for you when people are going in with like 43 different brushes in a makeup tutorial. Honestly, brushes are an awesome investment. It will really change up your makeup game. I still get a new brush sometimes where I'm like, god damn, how did I live without this? And it helps a lot. Like, having the product that you need and the tools that you need really do help a lot when it comes to application. But for all intents and purposes, I'm going to do this tutorial with 3 brushes. So the brushes that I chose are MAC 239 shader brush, which is just kind of like a flat shader looking brush. A Sigma blending E36 brush, which is a really small, tiny little blending brush, and then a Smith 232 brush, which is a large blending brush. All right, let's do this. Okay, so the most important thing, in my opinion, when it comes to doing eyeshadow is an eye primer. I'm going to be using MAC Paint Pot in Soft Ochre for this, and I am going to be using a 4th brush, but I'm not counting this because technically you could use your finger. So let's pretend we're using our finger, but I have talons, so I can't. So yeah. What I'm going to do is I'm going to apply this all over my lid from my lash line up until my brow bone. And what this primer is going to do is it's going to help make colors brighter and more true to the color in the pan. It's going to help them stop from creasing. It's going to make them blend better, just everything basically. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to apply a base shadow, and I've talked about this a few times in my videos, and basically not everybody does this, but I like to. It's just an eyeshadow that matches your skin tone. It seems kind of counterproductive to some, not to me. I'm going to be using my large blending brush for this, and I'm just going to be patting this color on all over the lid, up to the brow bone. So the reason why I like doing a base shadow is because sometimes primers, all the time, primers are sticky almost, and what that can do is when you put down a darker color, like let's say you wanted to go in with like a dark brown color to the crease, it would cause the eyeshadow to just stick right there, and then it's really hard to blend it back out because it's just stuck on that primer right there. It's basically like if you tried to blend eyeshadow over top of glue, probably not going to work out for you. But if you put down a layer of powder first, it kind of helps to add some slip to that primer kind of thing. Like if you want to put your primer down, feel it, and it feels kind of tacky, and then put that powder over top, and it kind of has this nice like silky feeling, that's going to be a lot easier to blend over. So if you are doing colors like, you know, blacks and stuff like that especially, this is really going to help putting down the base shadow. So yeah. One more thing that I wanted to quickly mention about primers before we move on is that if you're using a primer and it's still creasing, try using either less product than you normally do or more product than you normally do. Sometimes people apply like a shit ton of primer because they're like, oh, that makes sense, I'm just gonna like use a lot and it'll be even more, you know, tough on my eyeshadow and it'll never crease for like 3 weeks to come. Yeah, no. If you use too much product, it's going to crease up in your lid, probably even worse than it normally would. And if you use too little, same thing. So you have to find a good balance where it's just a sheer wash all over your lid. And yeah, let's move on. So when it comes to actually doing your shadow, I find it the easiest to work up from your lightest color, so your base skin tone color, up to your darkest color. The reason for this is because one, the biggest complaint in retail makeup when you're doing clients' makeup and also when you're doing your own makeup is that it's too dark. So if you start out slow and kind of build up that depth, the client, if you're doing somebody else's makeup, can look at it and be like, ah, you know what, yeah, we're getting a little too dark now, and it's not going to be too hard to kind of blend it back down. Whereas if you start with black, they're going to be like, damn, dude, that's pretty fucking dark. Like, I'm just going to a bridal shower, you know what I'm saying? So start out with your lighter colors, It's also gonna make it easier on yourself if you're doing your own makeup so that you don't get it way too dark and you're spending time trying to bring that color back down, but I'll show you how to do that anyways. So next I'm gonna go in with a transition shade. I talk about this all the time in my videos. It's basically just kind of like a mid-tone shadow that's not too dark, too light, and we typically put it into our crease to make it easier to blend out darker colors later. And it also starts to create a really pretty gradient effect into our eyeshadow, which is what we want because it does the blending for you. So I'm taking Makeup Geek's Peach I almost thought I broke it. I'm taking Makeup Geek's Peach Smoothie for this. Everybody knows this is one of my all-time favorite colors. It's just like peachy majesticness. So this is gonna work really well on really fair to like medium tan skin tone. If you do have a bit deeper skin tone, you're gonna wanna go for something a little bit darker because this will be a highlight on some of you. So yeah, I'm gonna be grabbing that on my large blending brush and I'm just gonna really load up that color right on the tip of my brush, and I'm going to place the tip like perpendicular to my eye, starting at the outer corner here, and I'm just going to sweep that into my crease and up towards the brow bone a little bit. We're leaving this spot right here, which is going to be our highlight place. You don't have to worry too much about this color. You can just kind of keep building it up because it's not dark enough that you're going to notice any kind of like issues with patchiness or anything like that. And you can be pretty quick with this. Like, don't sit there and worry and be like, oh God, I just don't want to like go too crazy. Just go for it. It's not going to show up all that much. It's just more so to make a really pretty transition color and gradient and make it easier for blending. You're not going to be able to see much of it, so don't worry. So the next color I'm going to be taking is Anastasia Beverly Hills Single Shadow in Fawn. This is just a really nice kind of like neutral toned brown shade. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to take my large blending brush and just get that right on the tip, just the tip. I'm not going to like put too much product onto my brush because this is a bit of a deeper shade. And again, I'm just going to start right over on my outer kind of corner and blend it into the crease again. And I'm going to relax my eye a little bit and basically look down into my mirror. So what that's going to help with is when you're kind of going in with darker colors, sometimes if you're looking straight at a mirror, like let's say that your mirror is right here and you're looking straight at it, you can kind of tend to get eyeshadow all over the place. Like, it's hitting your lashes, and it's also it's getting stuck in these folds of your eye basically. So it's kind of going to send eyeshadow flying everywhere. When you look down, you're not going to have a nice precise application. It's going to be like kind of muddy up here, down here, all over the goddamn place. So when you kind of look down into your mirror and hold your brush perpendicular to the eye so it's not hitting your lashes, you are going to get a more precise application, and it's going to stop it from looking too muddy and stuff like that. I'm just using this to continue to build up our kind of gradient here. And basically what I do is, once I've placed it into my outer corner and then I blend it kind of into my crease, I pull it down towards my lash line. So I'm starting to create a kind of V shape, and this is the most popular makeup shape ever. It suits a lot, almost all eye shapes, and it's something that pretty much everybody asks for when they go in to get their makeup done at a counter and stuff. They all want this like nice dark outer corner with like the light lid. It's really flattering and it's super simple to do once you know how to do it. Anyways, now that I've applied this shade, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of go like this on my brush. You can clean it if you actually want to between steps, but when I started out doing makeup, I literally just used one brush for everything and just kind of like flicked off the dust between. Don't do that on clients. This is just for you. So anyways, I'm just gonna basically flick off that powder a little bit. You can also have a paper towel sitting beside you where you can dust off your brush. What I'm doing that for is so that I have a clean brush. If you have muddy shadows, 9 times out of 10, it's because your brush is dirty and it still has like, you know, all these different flavor tones of eyeshadow just chilling in your brush, and those all get worked up when you're kind of blending and using it. So flick off a little bit of that excess product, and then you can just go in and blend that color out with your clean brush. We shouldn't need to blend this too much because it is a lighter color still. So we're just gonna be blending that up towards the brow bone, making sure to not go too high. So what I'm gonna be doing now is I'm gonna be grabbing our next darker shade. This is gonna start to feel really redundant for you guys, but this is the Anastasia single eyeshadow in rich brown, so it's quite a bit darker than our last color, but because we've started to build up this nice gradient and these transition shades, it's gonna be a lot easier to blend out this deep color. So when it comes to muddiness, again, and having a tough time with blending out hard colors, the biggest reason that I see people have problems with this is because they try to go in with this super dark shade with like this massive brush, and they're like, oh God, why can't I blend this thing out? It's because you're using a massive brush, man. I'm sorry, it just is. When it comes to darker shades or shades that are harder to blend out, so super matte shades, really bright colors, anything that's just basically not a light tone shadow, you want to use a smaller brush for application and a larger brush to blend out afterwards. If you use too big of a brush for application, it's just gonna be a mess, man. Like, it's gonna be all over the place. You're gonna be really upset. Everyone's gonna cry. It's just gonna be a bad time. So I'm gonna be using my super small blending brush for this. And I'm, again, just going to take the shadow and like dot this right on the tip. I'm not swirling it in, getting a ton of product and excess shit on there that we don't need. I'm just dotting it right onto the tip. I'm gonna take that from the exact same spot right on the outer corner there, and I'm going to start to just really slowly blend it about halfway into my crease. With darker colors, you don't need to bring it all the way over unless that's what you're going for. You don't need to bring it all the way over. You just need to place the brush where you want it the darkest first, and then you can kind of bring it about halfway to where you actually want it blended to. The reason why is because dark colors travel, man. Like, if you put it over here and you want it over here, you're gonna have no problem with that. They blend out a lot. So you don't want it to get too dark and too muddy if that's not what you're going for. So again, just placing that brush right where I want it darkest. I'm gonna grab it from the outer corner there and drag it down to the lash line and into that crease again. So again, just kind of going with our V shape. And you can continue to build up this color until it's the depth that you want it. But if you're worried about getting too dark, just apply one kind of coat of it, go in with your clean, larger blending brush, and then we're just going to start to blend that out. You can go a little bit slower with darker colors. Like with the transition colors, it was fine to just kind of like whip that shit around and get it blended out. But with darker colors, you want your blending to be a little bit more precise. So I'm using kind of circular motions in the spots that I don't want blended out as much, or that I want kind of more precise blending to. And then I go in with my windshield wiper motions towards the crease. So that's kind of where we're at for that. What you can do now is continue to build up that color if you want it a little bit darker, or you can stop there. If you're working with a client, you want to stop between every step and be like, how are you feeling about this? You like that kind of depth? Do you want a little bit darker? You don't ever want to just like dive in and go for it unless they brought in a picture where it's like super intense and dark. Even then though, sometimes people bring in pictures of like Kim Kardashian where she's wearing like the darkest smoky eye ever, and she's like, this is what I want. And then you do that and they're like, whoa, damn, like I just wanted like lashes, man, relax. So it's best just to ask. So for me, I'm gonna keep going and building up this color a little bit. Again, just grabbing color right on the tip of my brush, not too much. And going back in where I want the darkest color and blending it into my crease and down towards my lash line. Again, switching brushes, going back to my larger blending brush and just blending out. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in and highlight my brow bone. For this, you typically wanna use a matte shade, but you can go in for a shimmery shade if you want it to look more glamorous. And you typically wanna use a shade, not typically, pretty much all the time, unless you're freaky. You wanna use a shade that's just a little bit lighter than your natural skin tone. So if you're pretty fair, you wanna use something typically that's a little bit more peachy pink toned, a couple shades lighter, more of an ivory. Medium to tan, you can start to use more of the yellow tone kind of, and if you have super deep skin, you can use a pretty yellow toned highlighter as well. So I'm gonna be using Blanc from Anastasia Beverly Hills, and I'm gonna be using that on my third brush, which is a shader brush. And I'm just going to go in and apply that right to the brow bone, kind of holding this almost flat to the skin so that you're getting the edge of the brush having a sharp line on your brows there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it down really lightly, and then you can just use your finger and kind of blend over top of it so that you're getting rid of excess product. If you've blended up too high with a dark shadow or with a transition color that was a little bit too dark, you can use your highlight color and just kind of drag it down to lighten that color there. I see a lot of artists when they first start out and they get too high with their dark color and it starts to get super muddy and they're like, oh my god, I'm just gonna take it off. Sometimes it is quicker to just take it off, but a lot of times you can go in and re-highlight and it cuts down on that muddiness a ton. Like, it just really helps out a lot. And when you're working with clients in retail and stuff like that, you typically don't want to have to start over and redo their makeup, because that's all time, right? Like, that's lost time to the client, that's lost time to you, that's lost time to the company. So typically you want to try and get better at not freaking out, just relaxing and trying to figure out a way to fix it, so that when you do come into these problems, you can kind of be like, you know what, yeah, I know how to like deal with that. And if you're calm about it and you know how to fix it, it's going to be far less stressful in the future. There you have it. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to go in with a shimmery shade, and I'm going to be using, let me see. I'm going to use Starry Eyed from Makeup Geek, and that's from their foiled line. Typically when it comes to shimmery shades, you don't want to be bringing them into your crease as much because it just can look messy. They tend to crease more, they kind of start to get muddy and they go up here and they go all crazy. I prefer to keep shimmery shades on my brow bone and my lid. That's pretty much it. Again, this is completely personal preference. It's more so just like if you're starting out with makeup and you're struggling and you're not really sure where to use matte shades versus shimmery shades, it's a pretty good rule of thumb in basic makeup to put your matte shades in your crease and stuff like that, and then your shimmery shades on the lid and brow bone. So I'm just gonna be taking this color and I'm gonna be packing it onto my brush. So I'm gonna be really pressing my brush into that product. And once I do that, I'm going to tap my brush off a little bit to get off any excess product that isn't pressed right into the bristles. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to press that onto the lid. I'm not going to be swiping it on really quickly. I'm just going to pat that on the lid and really press it on. The reason for that is because any eyeshadow, but especially shimmery eyeshadow, will have fallout. And if you press that onto the lid instead of kind of just like whipping it on, you are going to minimize your fallout a ton. So just pressing that on, and then once we have a little bit less product on our brush, we can start to work a little bit quicker. And again, you want to put your shade down first where you want it to be the brightest. So I just kind of put it down right towards the inner kind of third of my eye. And then once you have less product on your brush, you can just pat it over the edges and that will blend it for you. So next what I'm gonna do is take the same shader brush we just used, and I'm gonna take the dark brown that we used in the crease here, and I'm going to take it on the very tip of my shader brush and just one side of it. So I'm just pressing my brush in a little bit like that. The reason why I don't want to have this all over the place is because we want precise application for this. When you are cutting down on using brushes and stuff like that, you need to utilize the brushes that you have by how you're putting the product onto the brush, how you're putting the brush onto your face, and how you're going to be blending with it. So I'm just putting that right on the tip of one side. And then I'm going to hold it a little bit flatter to my eye, and I'm going to just go right underneath the lower lash line about halfway in. And I'm connecting that with my outer corner here. You want to make sure to always connect that eyeshadow, because otherwise it kind of leaves this gap and it looks a little bit crazy. Unless you're into that, then do it. So that's what I'm doing. It looks a little bit kind of like boom right there, you know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna take my small shader brush and I'm gonna take just whatever kind of transition color we might have used in the crease on the tip of that brush, and I'm going to just kind of blend that out. And we're just softening the edges so it's not super dark and stark. Oh yeah, one more thing that I forgot to mention about shimmery shadow is that everyone's like, how do I stop it from getting up onto the crease? I have no idea, man. I'm pretty sure you can't. Some people walk around with like these super shimmery lids that don't transfer. I don't know how they do it. I really don't. I've been trying for years, don't know how to do it. I'm pretty much just sure that like, if your lid touches the upper part of your lid at any time, it's finna transfer. So anyways, moving along. People are always like, God damn, I can't make my eyeshadow look like these girls on Instagram, and it just sucks. Keep in mind, 9 times out of 10, these people are wearing lashes. Lashes make everything look better. They really, really do. They make it look more professional. They make it look more blended and put together. Like, it just is a magical thing that happens. Most people don't wear lashes day to day, so we're just gonna go for mascara today. I'm gonna start by curling my lashes. I'm using my really cute little Tarte curler here. And I'm just starting right at the base and kind of pumping it. If you really have lashes that do not curl at all, you'll want to keep going up. So you're starting right at the base and pumping it, and then going like midway, pumping it up to the tip, but mine curl pretty well. So I'm just gonna curl it right at the base. And then I'm going to take my Tarte Lights Camera Lashes mascara, and I'm gonna start right at the base and just kind of wiggle back and forth. And I'm not too worried about getting right towards the tip because I don't care about making them look longer. I just like them to look really full. There you have it. And that is the finished eye look. Okay, so let's move on to some of the questions that you guys had on Twitter. Hopefully that tutorial answered some of your questions already. But one question that a lot of you were asking was that you don't know how to pair colors or like be creative with your makeup. Honestly, when it comes to getting inspiration and creativity and stuff like that, following artists on Instagram and stuff like that is going to be massive. I gain inspiration from the beauty community all the time. I see people pairing colors where I'm like, God damn, I never thought about that. You on some shit? I don't know, like you know what's up. So anyways, following artists is a massive way to gain inspiration. In terms of finding that own creativity within yourself, look at a color wheel when it comes to pairing colors and stuff like that. Complementary colors will always look really cool together. Colors that are beside each other on the color wheel are gonna look awesome together. So like your yellows, greens, and blues, that's gonna look cool. All of those kind of things are going to help you when it comes to picking colors that are gonna look kind of cool together. At the end of the day, makeup is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be something that you can kind of experiment with and play around with. So just try things. Like when I first started out with makeup, I would just do my makeup before I got into the shower, and I just play with it and play with different colors and tones and shapes and textures and stuff like that. So honestly, just practicing and you'll kind of start to come to these color combinations and stuff like that yourself. Another question a lot of people were asking on Twitter was that, you know, when they're doing eyeshadow application, the colors become super muddy, or they aren't two separate colors anymore, basically. We touched on muddiness a little bit with, you know, using too big of a brush for application. When you have two separate colors that you want to look like two separate colors kind of thing, like you don't want them blended together into like a brown. Let's say you have like an orange and a purple. You don't want to use your windshield wiper movements to blend those two colors together. Windshield wiper is when you want it to just be like a smooth gradient, and like you just want it to look like one color that faded out. Using those little circular motions for blending is what's going to keep two colors separate, and you want to blend right down the center of them. So let's say you applied like an orange on this side of the lid and a purple on this side of the lid. You would just want to do your circular movements right in the center where the two colors meet, so that they still stay their two colors and you're not blending them together with your windshield wiper movement. I really hope that made sense. I've been trying to explain this like 3 times over. Okay. A lot of people are asking, they're saying that they like want to do smoky eyes and stuff like that, but it ends up looking way too dramatic. The higher up that you blend a smoky eye, the more dramatic it's gonna look. So the easiest way to counteract this is to just place the dark color on your lid and stop just before your crease. And what you're gonna do then is use your larger blending brush and just blend that just slightly above the crease, so that it doesn't look like boom, like your eyes were punched out. It has that soft kind of gradient effect, but it's not like you're putting it up high enough that when you go to blend it, you're blending up towards like your fucking forehead. If you do blend up too high, again, we can just go in and re-highlight. Sometimes when it comes to smoky eyes, using like black or really, really dark colors, it does start to look a little bit muddy if you try to re-highlight. So just try and keep that placement a little bit lower when you first place that product on, so when you go to blend, you don't have to blend so high to get that nice gradient effect. Some people are asking how to make sharp outer corners without using tape. Honestly, I would never use tape on myself, and especially not on clients. It's just one of those things that I'm like, I understand that it's quicker and easier and stuff like that, but it's just like unnecessary adhesive on the face. I personally wouldn't do it. If you find it to be really convenient, or you like doing it on yourself or clients or whatever, go hard. Personally, I wouldn't. So when it comes to doing it on clients, what I like to do instead is take a tissue, like a Kleenex, fold it over so you have a sharp edge, hold that to the eye and blend it kind of just like with the Kleenex there as your kind of guide, as opposed to using tape. On yourself, what you can do, let me just grab a brush here. You can grab kind of a concealer brush with a tiny, tiny bit of concealer and literally just go like this, whoop, and it'll be a nice, clean, sharp edge. There you have it. So that is everything, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something cool today, and I hope that I was able to answer some of your questions. If you do have any more questions that I didn't answer today, you can leave them in the comments below and I'll get back to you. All right, guys, let me know what you'd like to see next, and oh, I just kicked my light around. Whoops. Let me know what you'd like to see next, and yeah, peace out.